Some love stories don't end when the screen fades to black. They wait, quietly, for the right moment to be told again. Years have passed since Vivian and Edward walked away from their fairy tale ending. Life moved forward, just as it always does. The city changed, the world changed, and so did they. What once felt simple and magical slowly grew into something deeper, shaped by time, choices, and the weight of real life. Love didn't disappear, but it matured, carrying both warmth and questions. Vivian once believed love was about being rescued, about finding someone who could change everything in a single moment. Edward once believed love could be planned, managed, and understood like business. But time taught them both a different lesson. Love isn't a moment. It's a journey. One filled with growth, mistakes, and quiet sacrifices no one sees from the outside. Now, standing years later, they look back at the story that brought them together, not with regret, but with curiosity. Was that ending truly the end? Or just the beginning of something more real, more honest, and more challenging? The world may call their story a fairy tale, but they know better. Fairy tales don't show what comes after the magic fades. This time, the story isn't about falling in love. It's about choosing to stay in love. It's about facing the storms together, instead of pretending they don't exist. Because when love is real, it doesn't promise perfection. It promises presence. And sometimes, the greatest love stories are the ones brave enough to begin again. What happens after the fairy tale ends? When the music fades and real life begins. Vivian and Edward are no longer the people they once were. Time has shaped them, in quiet ways, smoothing some edges while revealing others. The love they share is still there, but it no longer lives in grand gestures or perfect moments. It lives in routines, in shared silence, and in the small choices made every day. This is love after the ending everyone remembers, but few ever imagine. Vivian has grown into herself. She no longer waits to be chosen or saved. She knows her worth, her voice, and her strength. Love, to her now, is not about escape. It's about balance, about being seen for who she truly is, not who someone else wants her to be. She loves Edward, but she has learned that love should never cost her who she is. Edward has changed too. The man who once believed control meant safety now understands how fragile that idea was. Success didn't teach him how to love, time did. Loss did. Fear did. He has learned that love cannot be managed like a deal. It has to be felt, protected, and sometimes risked. And with Vivian, that risk has always been worth it. But even the strongest love is tested when the fairy tale glow fades. Doubts creep in. Distance grows in quiet moments. They begin to wonder if love can survive without magic holding it together. Is what they have enough? Or was the magic the only thing keeping them close? These questions don't come with anger or blame. They come softly, honestly, and they linger. This part of their story isn't about falling apart. It's about facing the truth. Love after the fairy tale is real. Love imperfect, demanding, and deeply human. And as Vivian and Edward stand in this space between memory and reality, they must decide whether love is something they once had, or something they are still willing to choose. When love grows quiet, doubt speaks the loudest. Time has placed distance between Vivian and Edward, not in miles, but in moments they no longer share the same way. Conversations feel shorter. Silences feel longer. It's not that love is gone. It's that life has changed, and neither of them knows how to say it out loud. The fairy tale ending they once believed in now feels fragile, like something that could slip away if they hold it too tightly. Vivian begins to wonder if love is supposed to feel this heavy. She remembers the spark, the excitement, the feeling of being chosen. Love feels deeper, but also more complicated, she asks herself. Questions she never had to face before. Have they grown together, or simply grown older side by side? Staying the same as being happy? These thoughts don't come from anger. They come from honesty. Honesty can be painful. Edward feels it too, even if he doesn't say it. Senses the shift, The way moments that once felt easy now require effort. He fears losing Vivian, but he fears something else, just as much losing himself and trying to hold on to the past. The man who once believed love could fix everything now understands that love also asks for change, patience, and courage. Between them stands a quiet truth. Love doesn't fade because it's weak. It fades when it's ignored. And as doubt settles in, Vivian and Edward must face a choice they never thought they'd have to make. Do they keep holding on to the story they remember? Or do they risk rewriting it, knowing it may never feel magical again? This is the heart of their struggle, not betrayal, not loss, but the fear that even the strongest love can drift if it isn't protected. And sometimes, the hardest part of love isn't falling, it's staying. When staying means facing everything you've been avoiding, love isn't proven in perfect moments. It's proven when everything feels uncertain. When the storms arrive, Vivian and Edward don't run from each other, they stand closer, even when it's hard. Life throws challenges that no fairy tale ever warned them about. Pressure, fear, exhaustion, and the weight of years begin to test what they've built together. And in those moments, love stops being a feeling and becomes a choice. Edward learns that being strong doesn't mean having all the answers. It means showing up. When things fall apart, it means listening instead of fixing, protecting instead of controlling. He may not know how to stop every storm, but he knows one thing for sure: he will stand between Vivian and whatever tries to pull her down. Vivian sees a different kind of love now, not the grand rescue she once dreamed of, but a steady presence. That doesn't leave when things get messy. Love becomes warm hands in the cold, quiet words in the dark, and someone who stays even when staying is difficult. She realizes that safety doesn't come from perfection, it comes from loyalty. This is where their love proves itself. It's not in promises spoken once, but in vows repeated every day through action, through patience, through choosing each other. Again and again, the world may shake them. Time may change them. But standing together through the storm becomes their strongest bond, because real love doesn't shine brightest when everything is easy. It shines when everything else is falling apart, and someone says, without hesitation, "I'm sometimes love." Doesn't ask for a grand answer. It asks for a brave one. Vivian and Edward reach a moment where looking back is no longer enough. Memories are beautiful, but they can't live there forever. What matters now is the present, the choices they make when the future feels unclear. Love, they realize, isn't about holding on to what once was. It's about deciding what they are willing to build next. Vivian understands that choosing love doesn't mean losing herself. This time, it means standing firm in who she has become. She wants a love that walks beside her, not ahead of her or behind her. And for the first time, she speaks her truth without fear. Not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone choosing. Edward listens in a way he never did before. Not with plans, not with promises shaped by comfort, but with honesty. He knows now that love isn't something he can protect by controlling it. It survives only when both people are free to grow. Choosing Vivian again means choosing uncertainty, effort, and vulnerability. And for the first time, that doesn't scare him. This decision isn't wrapped in magic or certainty. There are no guarantees. Just two people, aware of the risks, still reaching for each other. They understand that love isn't proven by how it begins, but by how often it's chosen, even when walking away would be easier. In this moment, they don't promise a fairy tale. They promise something real. To keep writing the story together is to face the trials, the doubts, and the changes as one. Because love that is chosen again without illusion, without escapees, the kind that lasts. Every story worth remembering is written by those who refuse to give up. Vivian and Edward stand where every great love eventually stands, not at the beginning, but at a crossroads. The fairy tale they once lived gave them hope, but the life they've shared since gave them truth. Love didn't stay perfect. It stayed present. Not that they realize matters more than magic ever did. This ending isn't about sweeping gestures or perfect words. It's about quiet certainty, about choosing to face the world side by side, knowing it will test them again. They don't pretend love will always be easy. They don't promise forever without effort. What they promise is to be there through doubt, through storms, through change. The story they write now belongs only to them, not to dreams, not to expectations, not to the idea of a fairy tale. It's built from patience, trust, and the courage to keep going when the magic fades. And in that honesty, they find something stronger than fantasy. Love, they learn, isn't about being rescued or rescuing someone else. It's about standing together when no one is watching. About choosing each other even when the world makes it hard. That is the kind of love worth telling again. Their story continues. One truth remains clear. The greatest fairy tales aren't given. They're chosen every single day.